have so
hard not
many
to.
stars in our party. There are so many stars. Mamdani, I mean, he's exciting. Jasmine Crockett, who I just talked to recently. I mean, we have so many stars.
Wait a minute. Let me make sure I'm understanding you correctly. According to Cackling Cam Harris, who shares a commonality with LeBron James, LeBron is the self-proclaimed king of the NBA, and Cackling Cam, she is the self-proclaimed queen of the Democratic Party. Problem is, no one else seems to recognize their royal status. But according to Cackling Cam, Jas Crockett is one of the brightest stars in the Democratic Party, which is strange because based on what I have seen this week, Jas Crockett is no longer even allowed to ride the donkey in the party of the donkey. Her riding privileges have been revoked. Instead of traveling to campaign stops by the democratically provided donkey, Jas is now forced to travel around the state of Texas by using the method preferred by those who believe that the earth is on the verge of spontaneous combustion. Jas is traveling around the state of Texas on her taxpayer-funded stilettos. You know, here on the channel, I often use the term pretend friends. In most cases, I'm talking about the pretend friends people think they have in the mainstream media. When I reference pretend friends, that is not hyperbole, it's the truth. When I was in high school and college, I had a lot of so-called friends. Most of them were polite around parents. They were well-mannered, but for the most part, we were traveling down the path to nowhere. Now, notice I did not say they were traveling down that path. We were traveling down the path of nowhere together. We were partying together. We were going to jail together. I had some of the best times of my life with these so-called friends. And at the time, we thought we were like a family. We thought we would be friends forever. My dad used to tell me all the time when I was growing up, you are who you hang out with. One Sunday morning, a group of 5, maybe 6 of us, we had crashed the night before at one of my friend's houses. He lived with his grandparents, who were both amazing people. We got home around 4, maybe 5 o'clock that morning. 7 a.m., we were woken up by the sounds of his grandparents getting ready for church. At 21 years old, I could recover from a hangover with a quickness, but on 2 hours of sleep, there was no relief for that brutal hangover. Anytime we stayed there, his grandmother would always cook us breakfast, and you had to eat it. You didn't say no to Nene. Plus, she was a great cook. I'm sitting at the bar in the kitchen. Nene is asking me about college. She's asking plans about the future. Typical questions that adults with wisdom ask kids who are severely lacking wisdom. Somehow, the group of us, we got to talking about our futures together, how we would still be hanging out, how we were like a family. As hungover as I was, I have never forgotten what Nene said to me that morning. She said, I love you boys, but you're not real friends. The foundation of your friendship is based on substances. You bond over partying, you only hang out when you're intoxicated, and that foundation is not sustainable. 3 years ago, December 2022, I went to Nene's funeral. It was the first time I had seen those friends in 15 years. Right now, Jas Crockett is learning a lesson that one of the best women I have ever known taught me over 20 years ago. There is a huge difference between pretend friends and real friends. And Jas is quickly figuring out there are no friends in the party of the donkey. Make sure to like and subscribe. You can follow me on Twitter at KC_BTL84. Quick update on Chewy. I got her back home last night around 5. The doctors and nurses up at Auburn, they actually threw Chewy a going away party. They loved her up there. When they brought her to me yesterday, it was the first time I had seen Chew smile in weeks. It was the first time I had seen her teeth in weeks. Her mouth had been so swollen, she could barely open it. Got her home last night. She literally buried her face in food. The cancer is in remission for now. There's no doubt that it will eventually come back, but we're hoping that is a very long time from now. Again, though, I appreciate you guys. I appreciate all your prayers, and I appreciate you guys asking about her. Earlier this week, one of the faces of huge embarrassing failure in late night television, the soon-to-be fired Stevie Colbert, he interviewed some unknown named Jim Talarico. But my name is James!
It doesn't matter what your name is!
John Talarico is the opponent of Jas Crockett in the Senate race in Texas. Now, let me ask you something. Before this week, how many of you guys knew that? How many of you had even heard of James Talarico? My inside sources, they're telling me that last weekend, Jim woke up next to his virtual girlfriend and she didn't know who in the hell he was. And Greta AI is programmed to know his name. But all of a sudden, James Talarico is a huge star. How? How in the hell did this happen? How did the opponent of Jas Crockett go from being unrecognized by his programmable girlfriend to being a rising star in the party of the donkey? Well, and look, this is pure speculation on my part, but I think James collaborated with Stevie Colbert to create a fake controversy that would benefit them both. Stevie's interview with James Talarico, it was recorded and scheduled to air on Monday night. Now, according to Stevie, we were not allowed to air this interview on CBS because it was bad. Stephen Colbert claimed that Don Trump and the FCC refused to allow this interview to air because they were afraid that Jim Talarico was going to have everyone in Texas riding the donkey. The orange man is afraid that I, John Talarico, will flip Texas from red to blue. Let me get this straight. You think Don Trump is worried about some dork that he's never heard of? Before this week, Jas Crockett wasn't even worried about Jim Talarico, and she is running against him in the primary. Once this lie was proven to be a myth, Stevie Colbert then blamed CBS. He claimed CBS banned him from airing this interview. Long story short, that was also proven to be a lie, but once again, the father of lies benefited from his created myth. Stevie Colbert benefited by generating publicity to his late night dump that had pretty much been forgotten, and James Talarico benefited by receiving the support and highly conditional love of the Democratic Party. Within 24 hours of the controversy, James Talarico received $2.4 million in donations. Ironically enough, this plan was orchestrated and launched on the day that early voting started in Texas. What a coincidence. I'll tell you what's not a coincidence. Have you noticed recently that we rarely hear anything about Jas Crockett? Have you noticed recently that Jas isn't heavily featured on cable news? This is not a coincidence. It is abundantly clear. Jas is no longer the darling of the Democratic Party. Like I said, Jas has been kicked off the donkey and she has been replaced in the saddle by the white man. Just think about that. The party of diversity, the party of inclusion, the party where Dan identifies as Fran, the party that is supposedly dedicated to fighting fake racism and misogyny. That party is backing toxic masculinity. To make matters worse, they are supporting a toxically masculine white male, and the marginalized black woman who checks multiple woke boxes, she is no longer invited to the party. Look, I am not defending Jas Crockett. I am simply highlighting the hypocrisy. It's not hard to figure out why doofus Democrats are distancing themselves from Jas. They need a candidate in Texas who actually has a chance of getting elected. Kinda hard for Jas to get elected when she's accusing half the state of being racist. Watch for yourself.
Most black people are not Republicans simply because we just is like, y'all racist. I can't hang out with the KKK in them. We just can't side with like the neo-Nazis in them.
This always happens. This happens every time. The woke always turn on the woke. Doofus Democrats are not your friends. You're only valuable to them if they can use you. And once you are no longer of use, they are done with you. Hell, look at what they did to Bernard Sanders. There was a good chance that Bernard beats Don in the 2016 election, but they discredited Bernie and chose Hillary, the same Hillary they had rejected so they could choose Barry Obama. Look at what they did to John Biden. For damn near 4 years, they tried to convince us that John Biden was the second coming of Al Einstein, when the reality was John Biden was the second coming of Alf. Johnny B debates Donnie T. He can barely put a sentence together, and instantly, the entire party turns their back on him. They did the same thing to Cam Harris. She lost the election, and doofus Democrats now want nothing to do with her. They don't care about those pawns in the street fighting with ICE. What happened as soon as they were no longer useful? Tim Walz put down his tampon, picked up his phone, called the National Guard. All of a sudden, the pawns were off the chessboard. And now it's happening to Jas Crockett. They are setting Jas up to lose this election. And they don't care that their chosen candidate is the antithesis to what they supposedly represent. With the party of the donkey, the ends always justify the means. Sound off in the comments below. I'll see you guys later.